precious.
Hello SGD, links in the description. I put up a video a month ago, granite rings the ancient Egyptian way, do's and do nots. Probably best to watch that video as well, but I thought, well, because I ended up breaking the rings. I dropped one and then I was too aggressive polishing the other. The smaller one there on the top left hand corner, I made the same there. So the ones on the bottom you can see are the ones I just made now. The ring itself is 2 millimeters or less thick, considerably thinner than the smallest one you can see on the top left. And because it didn't break, I was able to polish it, so the dull grey colour becomes into a darker grey black colour, and because of the polishing you can see how it highlights the little bits for crystals, etc., that are there in the ring. So I probably recommend, if you want to make one for yourself, watch the do's and do nots first, and I'll just put together the rest. So if you want to have a go at this. Now, this would also be important. This is going to relate to something I want to work on later, which is the impossible to replicate vases of ancient Egypt with this incredibly impossible thinness. First thing to remember is that those vases, it's the neck which has the thinness. The most remarkable one of them was a alabaster, one that was made during the Ptolemaic or Roman period. But so already there, so in regards to this, how do you do that? Well, I was drilling this ring, quite aggressive drilling. It wasn't a delicate process really, and so we've got down to 2 millimeters or less thickness. So this will also come in later because I want to get into vase making, stone vessel making, and this is essentially the same basic technique. I'll be using drilling and some grinding. The lost ancient high technology will tell you that this is Atlantean, it's impossible, it cannot be done by hand, and you must do a demonstration. Well, I'll do a demonstration. So anyway, but if you want to make a ring, magic power Atlantean ring, there's a lot of quartz in granite as well, so there is a magical conductivity as well. So that, you know, it's clearly this was a machine part that I'm making. It's wonderfully symmetrical and all of that. So anyway, let's just I'll show you the next part, and I probably spent, I'm going to say 6 hours, but half of that was me fart-arsing around as well. So it's if you were to do it properly and you had a foreman looking over you and to keep doing it, maximum 4 hours. If you got a little bit of practice in there before, probably do it even in less time. So it's you can make easily 2 or 3 a day depending on your work conditions. This will be part 2. I drilled some granite rings using this primitive ancient technology, and just a follow-up. So what the basic principle is just a flywheel drill, but what I have is a tube, then there's another tube, another one, and I have a fourth one on the outside. Now the point was that well, this plate here, the hole was where I drilled the rings out initially, and well, because I flipped it over, so I thought, well, while I have it here, I'll, instead of making a wooden guide, I already have a ready-made drill guide. And so that, and well, now you can see this outermost upper part. So I'm sort of cheating or cheating, being more efficient and drilling another piece at the same time. But notice how it's not drilling straight down, there's an angle to it. Well, that's following the profile of this type of drill where I'm flaring out the tube at the end. And so then once I'm through, I'll flip that over and then do it from the other side, so I have like a pointed ridge along the ring. In the center you can see some of the holes that I've already started drilling, but I only got them down deep enough as a guide, and then I've extended this central tube out because I want that to go all the way through, and then use that hole as the guide to drill from the other side, so that I'm drilling from the other side, but I'm going to be spot on and match up perfectly. So I'll put this while I'm playing around. Okay, you might even notice, well, you can see it there, but the copper, even against the granite, wears very, very slowly because the abrasive has become embedded in the copper, and that's basically sandpaper now. So that protects the copper from being worn down, and now that the copper itself is the same as a diamond embedded steel modern tool as well. And so that's the one to use these split and then flared out. So I'm going to get a decorative feature, and again I'll drill from the other side, and then I'll have a large ring, but you'll see the point of experiment where I'll create this like a ridge pointing out. And again, you can even, so instead of, because of the way I've got it set up, even notice there in the center it has this a rounded sort of nub sticking out rather than just a pure drill as well. So these types of, whether it's cutting at an angle or creating like a more decorative feature, these are little bits and pieces you can you pick up by experimentation, experience, imagination, and just giving it a go. So it's not just the issue of drilling, which is clearly not an issue. The striations as well, we'll come to those too. But yeah, with a little bit of imagination, mucking around, giving it a go, trying something new. And I'll come back to it later, because this technique of flaring out the tube is a really easy way to hollow out a vase a lot quicker than the sort of normal method where you just sort of drill a hole straight down and then try and grind it out from the inside. I've done some experiments with that. I'm going to follow that up. But that's the rings. And so before I go too far down and pop through the other side, so you can see so there's a lot that you can do. It's not just about drilling holes or removing a small, again, it's a very effective method, even compared to modern stuff, because the RPM is quite high. And so, and again, if you're wondering, that's just, I could have used clay, this is less messy. I just use that poster putty. That's just to stop the water spilling out and keeping the abrasive in. Just, it's more about being tidy and not having a slurry mud everywhere all over the place. But tube within a tube within a tube, and then a secondary tube. And this larger one, I've got that set back because it's two pieces. So this uppermost part is the one that's being cut with that tube and creating that effect. So yeah. So the first step is to drill out that core, because you want to use that central hole as a guide to drill in through the other side. But you can also see those rings, the grooves that are forming there. That most central one is the smallest ring. I ended up actually breaking the larger ring, but that was a twofer, but I wanted just to really to get that central ring in there. And also, as a comparison, on the left hand side you can see that original little miniature replica core 7 that came out from the center. Well, because I was using a finer abrasive, that's how it came. Now I used exactly the same tube, and there on the right hand side you can see how it's completely different, but there you can see the size of abrasive. So you don't even have to adjust the size of a tube. You can affect the thickness and by using a larger abrasive. So I think, so on the left hand side that would be like a plug, but I believe the stonemason's term for what's on the right hand side is a niplorus or a clipple. Okay, so we've drilled through, and by extending that central tube, and I've already created the grooves to guide the tube there, but when we come through, so because of the nature of drilling, there's a bit of a taper. So the last time that I made it, what I did was, I made the ring and then I tried to grind out the inside. Big mistake. So firstly, this exit hole is a little bit narrower. Well, that's just a natural tapering of a drill. And so now when I drill in from the other side, I'm going to open up this hole and make it more equal to the other side. But yeah, the big mistake I made last time, which led to me breaking the ring, was I started polishing and grinding out the inside after the ring was already cut away, so it made it very weak. And so now I'll start drilling from the other side, not all the way through, just a little bit. I just want to open up this hole, create the grooves to guide the drill, and then I will polish and grind out the inside to make it a better fit. So learn from your mistakes. And once I take this plate off, I'll also start drilling from the other side, so you get that angled sides there. That's made by using this flared out drill. Now, because there's a slight wear in the copper again, I'll have to adjust these and fold them out a little bit to make it more equal as I began from the first side, but okay, getting there. Okay, so the next step, I've flipped that piece over. I've just got a granite plate there. Doesn't have, it could be wood, could be newspaper, just to stop the mud going through. So I'm going to fill this with hole. Then I'm going to again use with the central tube, extend it out, and with a hole. So I'll be grinding out that hole as I'm drilling down, and widening it out and equaling it out, just so I can fit my pinky will fit, or it fits in there, but I want it the same width as the other, and just to fit over the knuckles of my finger. And at the same time, I'll be having these, the second, the third, and the fourth tube, and that's just going to help stabilize it, keep the drill upright. But while you're doing the work, you might as well do as much as you can at once. And so I'll be cutting the grooves in to start making that ring as well. This outer one is what I just got a bunch of string, and pull it over. That's going to keep it in relatively good. And so that's the next step. And once I've done that and started making the grooves on the outside, then I can polish the inside of this. That was my big mistake when I first did it. I made the ring and then I started grinding it out from the inside, and being very brittle. Granite, it's hard to bang against, but it's like glass, it's if you bang something with a bit of glass is quite hard, but if you put any flex or stress on glass, it just fractures and cracks. And so that's why granite's very similar in that way. So as I just showed, I've just flipped it over, but I'll take a clip of the drill. I've just seen that photo, so I'll just show you the style that I'm doing. Other drilling videos, I did a more, because I was drilling a core, but because I'm drilling a ring, I want to be really delicate. So unlike that first attempt, I'll just change. So I just got to fill up the hole with, and the part with abrasive. This is old corundum, I suppose ground sandstone, bits of granite from earlier drilling as well. So it's basically, there's a lot of emery or corundum aluminium oxide in there, but a lot of quartz or silicon dioxide as well. Like cuts like, you don't need diamond or whatever, but that's just, should be pretty basic by now. But what I really want to first do is this, because I'm drilling that ring and it's so fine, any lateral movement, especially when I start getting in a little bit further, is just going to break it and snap it. So usually when I drill, and the other ones I've shown, usually I spin that and get it going, but sometimes you don't get it started, but there's also this sort of violent jerk movement, and that breaks it, and that's what caused some of the loss of the depth in the ring. I did a video, I'll put the link in there, where I come up with a new technique where I was something like that. So that's still a bit wobbly. I got better at it, but the thing is, it doesn't involve that sort of jerky lateral motion. I sort of just start spinning with my fingers, and then when you get going, okay, so at the very least you avoid that wild start to the drill. But so staying with that same method, I'm holding it, cupping it in my hand, but once you get it started, when you do it one-handed, it's this hand that's putting the rotation in, but with this way I'm giving it this little flip, so I'm using both hands. What I found is, well, I can get the same equal RPM almost, probably at least as high. I'll practice a little bit more, but it's firstly to get it started. It's going to do less damage, less movement. But I think it's also, now I've gotten better at it, it is more efficient, because sometimes when you lose timing with the drill, you sort of have to, throw a little bit of weight into there, and it's coming from your shoulder a lot more, and you sort of put your body into it. But with this way, if I sort of, go out of timing with my top hand, I can correct it with the lower hand, or vice versa. If I get a little bit unco and get it out of timing, I can fix it up with the top hand. But the important feature is, because you're doing it, if I'm drilling the core, it doesn't matter if I start it like that. It's a little bit violent because the core is strong enough, but because that ring at the center is so fine, a mouse fart could break it. So it's so that's the action, and the main part is that I'm not using that hard spin and getting that wobble at the start. So that's the main point, just for footage. Might as well keep filming, just to have some background. Let me load up with more abrasives. Because what will happen, especially when you start fresh, you've got to get the abrasive in underneath. So it looks like it's full, but it sort of tends to go underneath. So I just want to pack it up a bit more before I start. And because I'm doing that, the ring part of it now, I want a finer abrasive. I've got that photo, I'll show you the comparison between stuff. So I'm even using finer than, this is basically 40 grit that's being worn down even less. So it would be 80, 120, maybe even higher grit than that. Second thing, very important feature, is that you need to rotate, well, if the stone's if you're drilling a core, you've got a big stone, you're going to rotate the stone, you're going to move around. But whether it's a minute or two, sort of just turn it 45 degrees or 30 degrees, whatever, and just keep moving around, because there is a bias in the drill. So if you imagine a line straight through you from the drill, closest to you and furthest away from you is where the most action is going to happen, because that's sort of where you're kicking in the energy, and a bit like a bike pedal, it's not equal all the way around. It's that point where you're pushing down that puts the power into the pedals. So if you don't rotate it, what you're going to get is like an eggish shape. It's going to be elongated away from you and towards you. But if you want a symmetrical, you've got to counter that bias by rotating it regularly. So I was just counting in my head, so that'd be roughly about a minute. And then I'm just going to rotate it and keep that rotation equal, but do a full circuit and then change it slightly, because even if you're doing 45, ideally you want a perfectly symmetrical one. And so if you do a full circuit of 45 degrees and a full circuit maybe of 30 degrees, then whatever, feel, as long as it's sort of regular, but if you add a little bit of irregularity to it, that's going to make it that much better, because you're trying to average it out back to a perfect circle. Okay, so I've drilled down from the other side now, and I use those extra tubes in there. I thought, well, while I'm drilling, so I've got those 4 tubes going, so I'll have a set of rings. But the one that I'm interested in is this central one, and so far it's at about 2 millimeters. Is that 2 or 3? My eyesight's going. So looking at about 2 millimeter thickness of a ring. And well, I want to get down a bit further because maybe I might be able to get it so thin that we'll have translucent granite. But now we're going to flip over and start drilling back from the other side, do this again on the opposite. And well, I'm going to ultimately have a few rings, but this is a central one that I've gone. Now, because I'm gone through now, and I don't need that central tube sticking out to like guide the hole and then to keep it in, so I've put that back down to equal. Now I've still kept it in there because that central tube is now going to be rotating around the inside and polishing and grinding down as well. So that's now the next step. Flip it back over, and that'll be the final part, and then we'll start releasing these rings. Having drilled from both sides, well, there you can see how the granite is so thin at that point that the light starts to shine through. So you can see on half of that ring, just outside the bright part, the granite's so thin you can even like identify the different color crystals in there, which is sort of a cool little thing going along. Probably should have recorded now the ring's being polished up a bit. When it comes, I'll put the link to the previous video. So when it comes out, there's like a ridge running through it. So I just used a sandstone block, or a bit, you could use abrasive. I just ground it down just to finish it off. And then to polish, I put a really fine abrasive and used a piece of cloth, leather. You could do it on, I did a bit on wood as well, but I just like the cloth because it's a bit soft and catches the shape of a ring a little bit more. And so it's cool little, I enjoyed the little project. Again, these things are described as Atlantean or mysterious, whatever. Well, it's just a few hours of work. I think probably about, I wasn't working at it hardest, so probably about 6 hours. You do the whole thing quite comfortably. And yeah, so magical ring of granite power.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it! If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
The Laughing Heart. Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. Be on the watch. There are ways out. There is light somewhere. It may not be much light, but it beats the darkness. Be on the watch. The gods will offer you chances. Know them and take them. You can't beat death, but you can beat death in life. Sometimes the more often you learn to do it, the more light there will be. Your life is your life. Know it while you have it. You are marvelous. The gods wait to delight in you. That's a beauty.